PJ Harvey, recorded in 1995. She has a new album called Let England Shake. So we were talking about how you grew up in a house not only with sheep and cattle, but surrounded by music. Musicians stayed at your home. Your parents helped bring the musicians to town to perform. They had a great vinyl record collection. When did you know that you wanted to be a musician, that you wanted to perform?
There wasn't really a point that I can recall. I was a visual artist primarily and a writer. Even from a very young age, I wrote a lot of stories and poetry. And likewise, I had a desire to create always with painting and drawing, and I still do that daily. And I always had a desire to show my work. I'd want to read the stories that I'd written. I'd want to show the drawings that I'd made. That was just purely natural. And so I knew that I wanted to go into the arts in some way and that I would like to show that work in some way. That's all I knew. I didn't know what territory specifically it would be in, whether I would be writing or acting or singing or drawing. And as I grew a bit older, I actually was prepared to go into fine art school and do a degree. And I had my place. I was going to go and do that. So that was what I was actually settled upon when I was first offered a record deal, because I'd put together a band at art college and we'd just begun to play in London. And I think it was maybe our fourth or fifth gig ever. And I was offered a record deal. And that's what happened. That's just the way that life took me.
I want to play an early song of yours, and this is Rid of Me. And would you say a few words, if you remember, about writing this?
That time of writing the whole body of work that became Rid of Me, it was my second album. It was the first time of writing that I knew what I was writing would be heard. And so I for a long time felt quite crippled by fear and unable to write. And gradually worked through that and just remained true to myself and my instinct. And therefore you have a record that is very difficult record. It's not easy to listen to. It's certainly not what would get played very much on radio. And probably not what my record company was looking for at all at the time. But that's a case in point. It's what I needed to make. And that's all I had to stick by. I had to stick by what I needed to create as an artist, no matter how that came out.
Well, Rid of Me is actually really catchy. And in this song, you alternate. We've been talking about the different voices that you use. You alternate between a higher voice and a lower voice in this.
Yes, yeah, again, all to do with the song and the dramatic effect that you can achieve.
Okay, so here's Polly Jean Harvey from 1993, I think this is?
I right? think it is.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, and this is Rid of Me. That was PJ Harvey, the title track of her album Rid of Me from 1993. She has a new album called Let England Shake. You recorded the new album in a 19th century church on a cliff overlooking the sea. Why did you choose to record the album in a church as opposed to a London recording studio?
It was the way things fell, because initially I was looking at recording in Berlin and I looked at studios there. I couldn't find a studio that I liked the feel of. So I came back to England not really knowing where I was going to record. And a man who lives locally and runs this church as an art space, it's primarily used for exhibitions of paintings and classical work. It's not really a functioning church as such anymore. He approached me and said if I ever needed somewhere to rehearse, the church was available, and that's how it happened.
What felt right about it?
the location was beautiful and weather beaten and full of space and air and energy, and the building itself was high ceilings and stone walls and full of possibilities for recording sound. And I went there with Flood, my producer, and I sang a bit in the church for him to listen to, and we instantly knew it was the place to do the record.
Did it help, too, that it was a 19th century building, that it was old?
Well, I think it added to its beauty and spaciousness, and it just felt good in there. And that's all I ever look for. And sometimes a recording studio can feel good. I'm sitting here in Maida Vale in London speaking to you. This studio has always felt good to me. Every time I've come in here over the years, I like it here. Now, and that doesn't go for any studio. And I might have walked into a different church and not like that church. So it's really hard to say why, but this church felt good.
I want to close with another song from your new album, Let England Shake. How about The Glorious Land? Would you say something to introduce it?
Well, again, I think too much is made of this being an album about England and war. You know, it's not as simple as that. It's about the world we live in. And this song, The Glorious Land, illustrates that rather well, I think, because it's non-specific, particularly. It could be anywhere that I'm singing from. And even the songs that refer to England or Glorious Land referring to America, it's the emotion behind, it's the call, it's the person, it's the individual, who we are, that is the voice here. And I tried to use throughout the record language that carried a certain ambiguity, a certain ambivalence, and I tried to remain impartial in some ways, in the way that any news correspondent might try and remain impartial. I just wanted to deliver the action. Here's the action. This is the story. This is what's going on the ground. And people make up their own minds about things.
After doing an album like Let England Shake, which is about feelings about country and war and lost friends, and where do you go from there? Do you know?
Well, what I've always done is just follow my instincts, and at some point my instincts as a writer will take me into another area that I feel is strong enough that I want to concentrate on for a while. And at the moment, being a writer that writes every day, I'm in that familiar territory for me after one body of work has just been completed, that I'm feeling around. It's like feeling around in the dark, and I'll write something here and I'll write something there, and I'll think, that's not really it. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. And then after a period of time, you have to work through that time. And it's a very uncomfortable time to be in as a writer, because it's not nice to not know exactly where you're heading, what your focus is. Eventually, the focus comes, and then you just honour that. And that's the period that I'm in at the moment.
PJ Harvey, it's been great to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How is our glorious